What kind of idiot pilot, when the plane's crashing, goes on the microphone and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, we seem to be losing altitude. We must begin to ask ourselves, and we must be prepared to find," like, it's so ridiculous that part of it is people fall for this, and normally people go on about ANC's incompetent, they're so stupid.
My guest is Bonsai Shongwe, a best-selling author, motivational speaker, pastor, entrepreneur, investor, known among many other things for his SABC, the ABC of Success series, a man who started his rise to success through the music business, and last but not least, someone who many of my viewers recommended me to speak to. Go and check in the commentary section of my channel, and you will see many people who wrote to me and asked me to speak to Bonsai Shongwe. So, Bonsai, the pleasure is mine.
Oh, wow. So some people recommended. I feel privileged, and thank you so much. I actually enjoy your channel. I'm a subscriber, believe it or not.
Fantastic. Thank you. I'm very honored by that. You mentioned that, and you said you subscribed after I had a chat with Andile Masitama.
Yeah. The Mklitama interviews, the first one that actually showed up on my timeline, and I watched it all, and then hooked ever since. Yeah.
Masitama said, "I'm a settler and I must get the hell out of the country."
Yeah.
What would you say to Masitama, just to kick off with?
I'd say think he's already out of the country. Why are you still shouting at him too? Maybe the problem is not any individual that's not called Mklitama.
Let's talk about it. You started your career in the music industry.
Yeah,
Tell me about that.
I did. So I was born a pastor's son. So in Soweto. So when I moved from Baragwanath Hospital, moved straight into, they call them like mission houses, like the little house that's linked to the little church, the old traditional churches.
Yeah, yeah.
So we stayed in a little, I don't know what you call it, I guess a three-roomed house
Mhm.
that's a portion of the little church building. And so what that meant is I had a massive yard as a child, because it's a whole church building yard, and also had a piano in the church. So that was my toy during the week when there are no services, because I could steal the keys. Wasn't allowed very much, but I could get the keys and go tinker around. That ended up with me becoming a pianist.
Mhm.
And so by the time I was, and then we moved out, of course, but by the time I was 13, I was, I could play.
Yeah.
So then much later I went into study music formally, and then came back, and I had a dream to set up a record company.
Uh-huh.
And so I found a little studio, worked myself up from engineer to producer, and then started signing my own artist and licensing with them, and very soon was a competitor, and got to discover some of the well-known names in South Africa till now.
Mhm.
So those who,
And what year was this, more or less?
so this is 1999. I started as
Okay.
a music sound engineer, and I ran that company until past about 2012 or so. And that's when I stepped out of the industry.
You mentioned to me you were a young man when Nelson Mandela became a free man.
I was 18 when the first vote came. So I was 14 when
When
he
Nelson
came out of
died.
prison.
Okay.
That would be 1990.
Yeah. Can you take me back to then, young uh, young bonsai, young boy growing up? You said in Soweto. Um, what was your understanding of what freedom meant at the time? So I guess my question is what is your experience of apartheid, and what was your expectations and hopes and ideals when Mandela came free?
Now, my father was detained by the apartheid police, but then that was in my younger days,
Yeah.
when I couldn't really experience it because I was too small. But of course, then I knew about how he was tortured and all of that. And he got in trouble for what he preached.
Mhm.
And then someone that was a political opponent reported him, and so he got arrested and tortured and all sorts of stuff. But now I was born after the past laws. I did, I don't know what
Yeah.
it means to get asked for a pass. Number two, being a Soweto Joburg boy, that's a very was and is a dynamic part of the country, right? Joburg is still the hub of South Africa. So when Mandela came out, I think we just thought, yeah, freedom. Literally, what that means, freedom. Like I can do what I want, say what I want, and nobody will say anything, or nobody can do anything to me. So we can, and around the time that Mandela came out, quite interestingly, what happened is our television was flooded with inspirational stories and speakers. You remember we used to have Mabuza Sattel, Felicia
Mhm.
Mabuza
Yep.
Sattel
Yep.
show.
I remember. Absolutely. Yeah.
And remember, she had like a standard feature of a motivational speaker at some point.
Yeah.
And actually, quite funny, around that time, motivational speakers had standing in our society.
Mhm.
And so I think what most people did is we had freedom because there's Mandela, freedom. And we have all these motivational speakers on TV saying go for it and whatever. And so for many of us, it was like, oh, wow, I can go for it now because we all fell for the Mandela hype.
Mhm.
We all fell for a lot of it. I think the first time that I started to to think what heaven or stone in the shoe without recognizing what it is was under Thabo Mbeki
Mhm.
when he did his first I am an African speech. And I was kind of conflicted inside because first of all that was a great speech, like the greatest of the greatest speeches.
Yeah.
But I remember kind of thinking, why is he talking about Africa in the South African Parliament? Shouldn't this be like at the UN or the AU? Okay, but let's listen. And he went on, it's like, oh, but he's brilliant. He's a thinker. Why
Yeah.
doesn't he think to do a South African speech in his first big speech in Parliament? But anyway, but you started getting those little things where the ideology kind of said ignore like simple things like that, right?
Mhm.
And but his presidency didn't do enough for one to think what's really going on. So I think it was much later. Anyway, I'm jumping ahead here,
Yeah.
but I think it was much later as an entrepreneur when you actually start being cut down, and then you realize, no, man, what's up here?
Mm.
You guys don't like me, or something. You
Yeah.
don't like my company. What's really going on? Yeah.
Um, you were clearly not part. I spoke to Ike Kumalo a couple of weeks ago, and he told me that he was part of the stone throwers, angry, angry young black men that were called upon to uh, disrupt everything, make the country ungovernable. You were not part of that's it.
No, I think Kumalo's older than me.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, we talk mid 80s here, so you were
yeah.
about a boy of what, 13, 14 years old or something like that.
86, I was 10 years old, so
Anything.
no. So
Okay.
I
Okay.
would I could
So
not
you
have.
could, so you could have become a stone thrower had you been born a few years earlier. I'm trying to understand how you think apartheid impacted your life. How obviously, I think we all think it impacted the lives of black people in general in South Africa. And I guess I want to make then the jump to where we are today, whether we have, in the meantime, come to understand fully what apartheid had done to you, to me, to the country, to the people of South Africa, and whether we have given apartheid a place somewhere in our consciousness, so that we can get on with life and deal with the building of the country.
Yeah. So to I mean to people who are my age
Mhm.
and younger, the only experience of apartheid that they can have, first of all, is inherited. So I'll tell you now that most people who talk about apartheid don't know what they're talking about. There are two apartheids, right? The first one is what people actually experience. The
Mhm.
second one is what politicians profit from.
Yeah,
And it's it's how they weaponize it
yeah,
going forward. So I'll tell you now, for instance, that a guy at my age could not have been involved in the struggle because when the big unrest was happening with tear gas and all of that, I was 10 years old. So I you know I couldn't be a comrade of any kind at 10 years old. And so I know I'm literally like the cutoff, and anyone younger than me is pretty much a
yeah.
is only aware of post freedom,
Yeah,
right?
but the point, Bonsai, that I think you guess that why I'm going this direction is, of course, I'm a white Afrikaner,
Mm,
and though I might not live in the country, I am still in my soul a white Afrikaner.
mm,
And that thing that happened in our history called apartheid is, it seems to me, and I think you're going to agree with me, and I'd like to talk about that, is though 30 years post-apartheid still the biggest stick in the hands of, let's say, at the very least, the black politician. Or if you
yeah,
want me to requalify that, I could say certain black politicians. But that
yeah,
seems to me is the stick that, and I sound very crude when I say that, and I hope that you don't read any kind of racist attack in this what I'm saying. But that's the stick that's beating me.
yeah, yeah. No, no, of course. It's such a shame. It's such a shame because, and I think it's a shame because it's so effective. And it's so effective in two ways. Number one, if I get to show someone that I'm beating someone up on your behalf,
Mhm.
and so it's so effective because, and they've learned that if you can go, you white, blah blah, on people's behalf. It's so effective because they feel like this one fights for me, but it's also effective because the the white the white guilt, right? The the white guilt where many white people also fall for the hustle, and it is a hustle. Okay, so so here's the thing. So I grew up in Soweto, right? And in Soweto we have a word. It's called utleva, which kind of means you street clever,
Aha.
right?
Ukleva.
Utleva. So it means you streetwise.
Mm.
And then you have someone who's not streetwise. We call them ipar.
Hmm.
Okay. And this comes from like the cutthroat. You can imagine, obviously I missed the main part, but it comes from the fact that Soweto's a cutthroat place, right? It's the
Hmm.
concrete jungle, and you either clever or upare.
Hmm.
And literally everything that black politicians do, the comrades, the fighters, the thingies, is
Hmm.
just Soweto clever stuff, right?
Hmm.
And part of it is the white guilt that many white people still feel, is because they actually don't know, they're just dealing with it clever.
Hmm.
And I know, for instance, if I just randomly walk into a bar with mostly white people, which I do, because this is my country, I go in anyway. So, and then start up conversation with whoever I find there, which I do because this is my country. um, is it won't be long before someone goes, uh, in some way, like, I'm very cool chilling with you. I'm not racist, right? They
Hmm.
find some way to say, I'm not one of the bad guys. And it's like, who asked?
Yeah.
And and but I get it because I grew up in Soweto. I know how the guys who used to knock people, and then you learn, oh, be smart. If someone ever makes you feel guilty, right, step back, hold your wallet, don't entertain the conversation further,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Because what you're saying is that it is cunning in the sense that it's all about that thing you talked about now, the wallet. That's
It's a
really
hustle.
the
Yeah,
clever that you talk about.
it's just the clever hustling white Paris. There's
Yeah.
nothing deep. It's very simple. And it's this simple. So I got on TV. I uh, had a record company with big hits in the market, and then I go back to Soweto. Say at some point, because I feel like Shisanyama or as a Soweto car wash experience. And when I go there, right, I'll come and drive in my car at the car wash, within 30 seconds, someone's gonna come and go, Bonsai, you leave us behind, ne? Okay, but because I'm a Soweto boy,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna answer that nonsense.
Mhm.
Because I know if I go, why? What did I do? I know the next thing is just get me a beer there. Right? Because I'm a Soweto boy, I kind of know a hustle when I
Yeah.
see it. And part of the hustle is if I ever feel guilty at some point, I'm checking, is my car cool? Is someone about to come for my wallet? Because I just felt a little pinch of guilt,
Mhm.
right? Because Abo Kleva, it's hustlers, right? It's a hustle. And unfortunately, most of what we discuss in very serious terms about race and whatever, that's just hustle. The conversation you were having with Mklitama, that's just the Kasi hustler.
Yeah.
If he wasn't doing that to white people on land, he'd probably be playing dice on a street corner. It's just the hustler. And when I say hustler, it's not someone that ever had much respect,
Yeah.
even in Soweto, because we had the people who we looked up to and respected, the Maponyas, the Jomosonos, and all of them, because we looked up to, and parents would feel like, be like that guy. And in fact, you're not supposed to be a clever. Parents would teach you, because clevers are just crooks who knock people on trains
Yeah.
and all of that. And unfortunately, the crooks manage to do it through the political hustle.
Yeah.
And and very funny too, because if you listen to politicians now, you kind of feel like, I have a debt to pay and blah blah blah. Okay, if you fly into Soweto now and I say, let's go hang around 5 days, 5 random townships, unplanned, and we're gonna go Shisanyama, which is like Brian, a township sort of Bri thing. And we could even walk through the townships and do 5, 6 places. And the only person who's going to bring up apartheid will be the white guy, justifying, I'm not one of the bad guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you never brought it up, here's what would happen. You'll come back thinking, oh, that was the coolest experience I've ever had anywhere, because everyone was happy to have me, right?
Yeah.
And they were happy to educate me about their quotas. Everyone will offer you a lift if we're walking. Not a single person will reflect what you hear from the politicians, if we had to just go in and not talk about it. So these guys, they just Abo Kleva. So if they weren't in politics and it's 1980, they would be snatching handbags at the train station from people coming from work. And how they would do it is they would say, Sisi, you just stepped on my foot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then she's going to go, oh, sorry, I didn't see, I stepped on your foot. Handbag gone. And unfortunately, it's the same hustle that just uses history. And it's like, apartheid. Those are hustlers, man. Those are just low level.
The character of that is essentially a very selfish act.
Yeah.
That sort of tells me a broader story about South Africa, our political leadership, where the country is today, because everybody is being clever for himself and herself, and they grab all the stuff, they get all the money, they milk my guilt to enrich themselves, but in the process, it's only about themselves. It's not about the whole. It's not about the poor masses. It's not about those that really need to be emancipated. So we are now players in this whole thing.
Exactly. And Itleva is a criminal, right? It's what every parent taught you not to be, and to not play with and to stay away from, because they milk everyone. So they milk the rich, they milk the poor, they milk everyone. And even if there's a potential of any wealth moving from the wealthy to the poor, they've got to make it come this way, because they've got to milk the poor as well. They're horrible people. Really horrible people.
Yeah. And that happens on a daily basis in the country through just about every and any interaction that's being had on, whether it's in the municipalities, whether it's on council level, where it is provincial or whether it is national. That's the game that's being played in South Africa at the moment, to the detriment of development.
Unfortunately, that is the saddest thing. I do YouTube videos, and I should be doing them every day, but I can't, because every now and then I've just got to just back off,
Mm.
because it's there's a temptation, if you're going to be talking about this, to get really angry and just lash out, because we are literally a country captured by crooks, just
Mm.
street corner crooks.
Yeah.
And often people talk about how dumb certain people are. I mean, we've just the biggest trending speech right now is of Ramaphosa saying we need to ask ourselves why there's no medication in the clinic.
Mm.
We must ask ourselves, and we must be willing to answer,
Mhm.
why is it that, you know, that everything that I'm responsible for is not happening? Right? It's just ridiculous. Like, it's so stupid. It's like, but what kind of idiot asks the people who are not responsible for something to think deeply about why it's going wrong? Like, what kind of idiot pilot, when the plane's crashing, goes
But
on the microphone and says, ladies and gentlemen, we seem to be losing altitude. We must begin to ask ourselves, and we must be prepared to find. Like, it's so ridiculous
mm,
that part of it is people fall for this, and normally people go on about ANC's incompetent, they're so stupid. No,
no,
I'm not clear.
because what you're saying is Ramaphosa is actually cheap McClever. I
Oh,
didn't say
he
the word
knows
right,
he's
but
talking nonsense. He can't be that dumb. He's just
yeah.
being clever, because sometimes clever plays dumber than you
Mm.
to steal from you. So of course it's a hustle. They know exactly what they're doing. They're not incompetent. They're not stupid. I'm not clever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a hustle, but unfortunately it gets real. So I got to be in Limpopo just now, until yesterday, and got to be in Mpumalanga. And when you actually get to see what's going on, and part of it as well is I was talking to people so that I see where my book is, the messaging, to make sure I'm matching it correctly. And and it gets sad when you actually see what this means
Mm.
for individuals in some rural place in Pumalanga, in some small farming town in Limpopo. And I was at the citrus belt, in between Groblersdal and Marble Hall, and watching all the people getting in to go and work there. And it could really turn you bitter when you
Mhm.
actually realize this clever there knows that what he's doing could wipe out all these jobs
Yeah.
and turn this whole township into a ghost town
Yeah.
in the next 3 months. But he's happy to do it, because he'll get to get something out of this. And that is just, it's the saddest thing ever.
Mm.
It's the saddest thing ever.
Yeah. Yeah. How correct am I if I go and I really what I'm saying now is really based on the words of Julius Malema of all people. I watched a very interesting talk that he did at the Oxford University, and whether you like him or not, there's some really, to me at least, there was some truth there. Um, he talks about uh, how before and during Codesa, the deals were closed for the creation of the new South Africa. And I have constantly asked people around me and fellow journalists, why is it not the biggest story in South Africa that the African National Congress is an organization of what, 80 years old, one of the most respected liberation movements in the world for a long, long, long time. How come this organization could come to the negotiation table and in one blow simply hand over all their ideals, all their values for what appears to be that bag of gold that was given them during the Cadesa talk, and actually start building the foundation of a new South Africa created on basically a deal that was struck, and some would say a corrupt deal that was struck. And is
Yeah.
that at the end of the day then, in fact, and I'm using too many words to make a point here, but is that not the first seeds that were sown to create this whole corrupt thing that became the new South Africa? And I will, and
Yeah.
let me add this to you. During the freedom in South Africa, I was foreign correspondent here in Europe, and for the SABC, and I remember months before the change over in South Africa, F.W. de Klerk arriving in Europe on a visit, and him being received by, I think, the ambassador and one or two members of the embassy's children that gave him a bouquet of flowers to welcome him here. Take that image of this one man who arrives and is a little kiddie that hands over a bouquet of flowers to welcome him to Europe, and then put onto that image a month later, 2 months later, 6 months later, Nelson Mandela arriving in Europe, surrounded by what looks like 50 bodyguards dressed in Gucci suits and wearing snazzy sunglasses, and hundreds of secretaries that are running around wearing the most fantastic, whatever designer clothes you could possibly think of that come out of shops in Paris and things like that. That all happened. And I kept on saying to myself, where did the money come from? And please allow me to just tell you this little story. The previous representative of the African National Congress lived in a small flat here during the cold days of exile, in a tiny apartment with maybe one little portrait against the wall with a Uhuru fist, his fight against apartheid. But 3 months post-apartheid, 3 months into the new South Africa, invited me to his wedding in Johannesburg. And when I arrived in the wedding in Johannesburg, I just saw one Mercedes-Benz and one BMW and one whatever Audi, whatever, arriving there with these grand ladies, all of them one after the other stepping out of the cars. Where did the money come from? So isn't that the biggest story that you're talking about, that Kleva, the story that you told, that resulted in that it's the corruption started then and became part and parcel of the fabric of who we've become as a country. Weren't those the first seeds that were sown that created this whole new South Africa? Because what came out of that, from my point of view, was just vulgarity. It was just like, I hate using the expression, and I don't mean it in any more sinister way than what it is, but it's like pigs around a trough, just eating and eating and eating more.
I actually did a video recently about that, and I was saying that the greatest misconception, because we fall for ANC politics, right? So when the new guy comes in, he says the last guy was state capture. And that guy comes in and says the last guy was business capture. And then this guy comes in. And of course, unfortunately, what happens is, for the sake of our national identity, we then have to have, before Mbeki being just the angelic Mandela, and so, and also Mbeki's time was before the comrades could pass all their laws, so the economy was still growing, which meant great times, right? So and the economy was not growing because of what Mbeki did. The economy was growing because Mbeki hadn't had time to stop our economic freedom, a term which Julius stole to mean the opposite, because they hadn't passed as many of the laws. And so new middle class emerged, entrepreneurs emerged, and so I was doing this video because when I started checking out, I went back to 1994 and realized there was not a day in South Africa that the ANC was not looting the state. And see, I'm not even saying it directly, because best way to say it is from 1994, it was very clear that looting the state was first priority.
Yeah. Prime
But
objective.
yeah, and so that just got to a time when you loot the state so much that it shows, and unfortunately it took decades for it to really show up as load shedding and water shortages and all of that. And right now we're at a place where the economy can't grow, because if the economy grew, it would push us into load shedding. So now we have this tug of war of, will ideology allow us to have enough electricity so we have enough economic growth so that the people who are in shacks can actually make more than 350? And right now the comrades are saying, yeah, that could be done, but no, if we do that, then we can't eat. It doesn't help us eat. So no, let's keep the economy at zero so that at least there's enough electricity to be at zero, so that these hungry people in shacks can at least vote us in again, so that we can stay here, tell the whites who still have some wealth with them that they're guilty and they need to pay penance, so that at least we get money from everybody, and we'll give our voters a 350 tip. And unfortunately, that that is what it's always been. And one of the reasons why the ANC loses the vote slowly is because this is a really, really, really painful betrayal. It's really tough to accept and find out that the person you thought was on your side was just hustling you from the beginning.
Yeah.
And in fact, many people who I take a lot of the heat from them when with things I say. What I say gets you burnt big time, and I don't take it personally, because I know 80% of them know I'm telling the truth, but it just hurts too much to face that truth, accept it, and because that's a devastation. Like, don't tell me I've been supporting guys who are just hustling me all along. Yeah, I know. You do feel stupid, because I fell for it too. But when you look back now, you can only argue with me by shifting from facts to attacks, because the facts you can't debate the facts anymore. It's become too clear.
My question really is, how far can it still carry on like this? Have we reached a point where it's actually being turned around? What can we effectively do? How do you, I mean, what you're really saying, and I see the picture clearly in my head as well, is the ANC have used apartheid guild as an instrument to enrich themselves with and to force white people into compliance. But the result of that is, I read the statistics yesterday, is that there are 12 million people in South Africa that more or less go hungry when they go to bed tonight. But how can we build in the country if we are up against this, what's the term you use, me clever mentality, this rip-off mentality that seems to be so deeply embedded in, and then I am going to say the racist thing, in black society today?
Yeah.
I mean, have I got a point here, Bonsai, or am I just an old racist now?
No, you're an old racist because you're not separating black people from black politicians.
Aha. Okay.
Yeah. But
I accept that. I get your point.
so because so and here's the thing. Everyone was ripped off by the Klevas in our midst, who happen to be mostly black, right? But amongst them, you do have some white people in there playing the same game because they also made some out of it. So, but what do we do? I tell you what has to be done. The first thing that needs to be done is, number one, the white South Africans, stop justifying that you're racist or not.
Mhm.
Okay, so if I had to walk past Mandela Bridge, which is the only thing I can remember that the ANC built, if I had to walk past Mandela Bridge, which is no longer a sight to look at, it is now a crime-ridden spot. So I will not walk past the Mandela Bridge, especially not after hours. But if I had to walk past there for some reason, okay, and I must bring back my Soweto boy street smarts. What I would do is that as I walk down, if they start coming out from the cold and they go, hi, I'll just give them a look and go, yeah, and keep walking. Because if I'm nice, if I go, oh, hi, my brothers, well, there we go. There goes my cell phone and my there goes my cell phone and my wallet, whatever I have on me. Because I would have invited them. And I think one of the strengths of the ANC is white guilt and white care. Right? So let's start there. Anytime I hear someone having to justify, I'm not being bad, I'm just trying to say this, then okay, great. Thank you. You just helped me get ripped off,
Yeah. Yeah.
for starters. But number two, on the other side, is that we do have to educate, and not educate everyone, but there is enough of a chunk of society, and I'm talking black people, who are close enough to get what's going on and get a very clear therefore vote like this.
Hmm.
And one of them is the current young people, anyone who's turning 18 years old right now doesn't care about all of this stuff. They just, they just want whatever they've seen on TikTok, on TV, that better be my life too in the future. And so we have to educate. And number three, the good thing about it is that the spell is breaking. And what these guys do, so for instance, Julius Malema will fill up a stadium and float in the air like a magician, and he'll make sure that's on TV because that really moves you, right? And then you get to be like, oh, all the black people are angry. Well, if they were, then why does he only have 9% of the vote?
Yeah.
So so first of all, it is going down. It's stressful that it's at a slow pace, and and um, and also now people are expressing their anger in all sorts of directions, and then they'll go to MK because of Zuma's, he's a good performer and drama person, so some will go there. But if you actually look at the numbers, I know there's two things. There's where, yeah, but ANC global is still 2/3. But you can't put those three together because they hate each other, and they're trying to undermine each other. So number three is, on the positive side, is that the ANC is coming out, and that mind trick has lost its flavor.
Yeah.
Shouting racism no longer gets anyone's attention, and it really is wonderful that, I tell you, one of the people that did the greatest favor for South Africa, was, if you Rob Hertzog,
Hmm.
and not for the facts that he spoke, not for anything he said, but that he swore.
Yeah. That he at least
Futsek,
he's saying it.
he said Futsek ANC. Actually, just that shifted so much in the country, because then it becomes, "Oh, can you do that? You're a white guy. You should die." And then he gets to say it again, and then the Clevers go, they got us. They you can't rip, so you can't rip anybody off if people are not apologetic. So what I would say to white South Africans, what they could do, two things. Can I give you this? This is a secret I've given to no one else.
Give it to me.
Let's do it. Number one, stop tiptoeing around. It's dangerous. Okay? Stop tiptoeing around. You don't have to justify yourself to anybody. You hear, right? If you were so racist, then you'd have to go away, right? So you don't live around black people. Throw the white guilt away. You don't have to prove to anybody whether you're racist or not. Nobody cares. Okay. Okay. So that's the one, to not fall for the white guilt. But the second one is this: the hustle uses black people. You got that? The hustle uses black people. One of the things that white people can do is, first of all, no guilt. You don't have to answer for apartheid. You weren't there. And if you were, you didn't have a signature that mattered. So you didn't sign the Land Act or whatever it's called. You probably weren't in parliament. So get over it. So number one, get rid of black guilt and get aware of this. When people talk about BEE, I'm giving you a secret now, is the white people need to be claiming the tool that hustlers use when arguing with hustlers. You got that? So let me show you a perfect example. The DA they had a black president, a black leader in Musi Maimane. The hustlers started going for their president and saying, "Oh, you're just the face of white people." And most white people who were in that organization, and I'm speaking from outside here, didn't throw a tantrum. Great. So you let black hustlers use your black president for their hustle, and you just go quiet.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's when they should have all said, "Don't don't talk about my Musi. They didn't. Up till today, they are known as a black party, as a white party. I've never heard no white DA person on a comment going, your mama is whatever. Don't you ever talk about my Siviwe and call her white. She's blah, blah, right? They seed that ground. And because the others are using it maliciously, one of the things that some white South Africans miss on this is just grab that tool. You can also fight for black people. That disarms them, right? Meaning, if you will find, for instance, it's a different messaging saying BEE does not work because it puts us in a bad spot and it does this and this. And what happens, unfortunately, they've already won the messaging game. But if you're a white guy and you say, I hate BEE because I don't want to see another shack with black people struggling, and that's what BEE is, hey, you can add 50 swear words on top. There is no comeback for that. So one of the tools that I'm giving you is hustlers use black people. You use black people back.
It makes sense. It makes sense. We were way out of time, but I want to ask one last question, or one more question. You talk about you have to reach and I'm going to use the word, the black mass out there. You have to reach the poor people to get the message out to the poor people. It's very difficult to reach poor people to get your message out. My question really is, do you think that there comes a point in the next 4 years where the poor man in the shack actually gets to understand and fully embraces what you just said now, namely you've been hustled, stand up?
Yeah. So one of the legacies of the hustle of comrades is to make people hegemonic, right? And keep speaking about white people, black people, colored people, Indian people, as if that even begins to describe South Africa in any way, the racial divisions. Because first of all, when you say white people, it's like, what do you mean? Because you still have like the Afrikaner Calvinist, and then you have like the liberal English speaker, and then you have like, the Lebanese entrepreneur. Like, so for someone who knows, they go, what do you mean? What is a white person? Okay. Because it could be anything. And in the same way, when it comes to black people there is no black hegemony, because you have the greatest numbers are coming to urban, are becoming urban and coming across to urban culture, and so I think that's the big market that's going to shift first. And what happens also is, whatever happens in Joburg first, Soweto first, then Joburg, then Gauteng, will be followed in the end by everyone else outside of those places, because that's where the leadership happens. And so, and that has been from the beginning in all cultural trends and things like that. So no, we don't have to talk to everyone, but you do have to get the trendsetters who lead the way. You've got to win some of them. And that's why I'm very happy about what happens on YouTube. And I hear many people going, Oh, but this is just on YouTube. I wish you were getting it really out there. I've heard others also say, "Oh, I wish you could translate this to languages." I'm like, "Nah, you don't get."
It's getting there, is what you're
It's
saying.
it's not it doesn't work like that. That's literally you. That's 100 years behind, if not 50. It really does move like this, and I say this having worked in Kwaito Music, sold over 1 million records, and I know how we sold them. So
Yeah.
that it really, whatever gets popular in the city will get popular in the township, and it will get to the rural area,
Mm.
the mindset. So I do think by 2029
Yeah.
ANC will finally have its hand of power, and then our battle is to just move enough people to know how to vote right, and not because they're ignorant, but because they have been miseducated for so long.
Yeah. Yeah. Just before we say goodbye to one another, Bonsai, how about a Gogo Helen Zille
Yeah.
in the top spot? What's your feeling about that?
At the head of the DA
No, I talk about the hit spot.
or Johannesburg?
No, I'm talking about right up there where Ramaphosa is sitting.
Oh, as president.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, she would rock. She would rock. She she would do well, because I think she got vaccinated from white guilt, and especially at that spot, she could pull it off very well, and she's a out of all white leaders who could be president, my opinion, coming from years of dealing with human icons,
Yeah.
and having made them from scratch and understanding exactly how that works. If South Africa had to have its first not black president, the best would be Godzilla.
Now, we're going to close now between you and me. I've
Yeah.
had this thought in my mind for some time. You're a music man. You know the music industry. You know how to market music. You know how to get the voice out there. I think we should, in some way or another, start a Whisper Helen Zille campaign.
I'll do it.
Okay. Bonsai, thank you very much. It's great meeting you. Great talking to you. I really hope that you're going to come back and we'll talk more. But thank you very, very much for your time.
I am so honored to have been able to speak to you, and you had a very funny way of drawing stuff out of me. I'm sitting now here thinking, boy, did I get in trouble? But thank you very much. It's really an honor.
Thanks so much, Bonsai. Till next time. Thank you. Let me switch off here. All right, let me just stop this thing.